again, friends. We're back with Meatless Monday every day. I thought it seemed like a fun name, but who knows. So what we're going to be cooking today is going to be pan-fried baby potatoes, kale, and cabbage. I'm also going to be putting in these tofurkey sausages. Now, I'm not always keen on using meat replacements in my meals. I don't miss it, so I don't always do this, but this seemed like a good idea to mix this in to make it a little bit more of a substantial meal. So the recipe I'll be making comes from my new cookbook that I bought. Not that I wrote, I realize how I said that, but it's called the 30-Minute Vegetarian Cookbook by Lisa Turner. I found this one honestly on Amazon, and I gotta say, we've made at least, I think, 3 or 4 recipes so far out of it, and they were really good. Almost every page is filled with something that I would make. Pretty, normal ingredients, not too long of cooking, again, 30 minutes. So there's stir fries, there's curries, there's pastas, there's soups, there's bowls, there's pizzas, flatbreads, sandwiches. Lots of good stuff in here. So if you're in the mood for a new cookbook, I would highly recommend this one so far. You'll find that we buy a lot of cookbooks around here. I justify all of the cookbooks because, what do you spend? Maybe $20 on a cookbook that I will use to cook meals for our family for the next 3 years. So that's well worth the investment. And we like to meal plan a lot here, so it's really nice for me to have new recipes just to keep it interesting for me. I like sitting down with a cookbook and I like to read it from cover to cover. I like to plan out what I'm going to make out of it, and once I make it, I will take a marker and make all of my changes in the cookbook, say what I liked, what I didn't. I really enjoy having cookbooks, so it's not very often that I will go online for a recipe, but if I do, I usually print it so I can keep it or get ebooks. They're not my thing, they're not for me. So what we're going to need for this pan-fried baby potato, kale, and cabbage, you guessed some of it right off the bat, I'm sure. Baby potatoes, kale, and cabbage. So the baby potatoes are sold in little bags like this. They're adorable, right? How cute are they? So what we're going to do is we also need 1 medium onion chopped up. I've already done that. I went with a red onion because, quite honestly, I like them. We're going to, heat the oven, or the stove top, not the oven, to a medium heat here. And we're going to put in about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. We're just going to ballpark that. So once you have your oil cooking, you want to get your oil hot, and then we'll be putting in the onion. So while the oil heats up, we've already chopped up the onion. What I'm going to do next is cut up the other ingredients, again, which is going to be these baby potatoes, cabbage. I've got a mix of red and green cabbage I'll be using. And we do have a little bit of zucchini left over just from other things in the week that I'll add in. So what I'm going to do is finish chopping up these baby potatoes. It says to half them. I decided to quarter them because these ones were a little bit bigger for baby potatoes. And then I'm going to cut up some of this zucchini. Also going to finish slicing up the cabbage. Oh, I never told you what you needed for spices, did I? What you're going to need is 1 teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of coriander, and half a teaspoon of turmeric, half a teaspoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of salt. And this recipe doesn't call for garlic, but I think most things need garlic, so we'll be putting in about, a spoonful of garlic as well. So get the cabbage all shredded and chopped up. sounds like the oil is heated, so we're going to add the onions. We're going to let those cook for 5 minutes. Once the onions are soft, we will then add in the baby potatoes. Alright, just get these in a little bowl so they're ready to go over there. So you end up needing about 1 cup total of cabbage cut up, I would say. Well, I probably have 2 cups here, but I like it, so that's all right. Then we also need to cut up our kale. So this kale has already been washed, but it hasn't been stemmed yet. So if you haven't ever really worked with kale before, it has a really big stem in the leaf. You don't want to eat that part, okay? So we just kind of cut it out, and then you're going to slice the rest of the leaf into ribbons. So, like I said, I decided to add in these tofurkey sausages tonight. And it looks like, I'm reading the instructions on these now too. Cooking in the stovetop, you're just going to saute them in oil until brown. So we'll probably add those in maybe the last 5 minutes that we're cooking on the stove. That should be enough time. Since it's tofu, it's all pre-cooked, it just needs to be heated back up. I thought those would be a nice addition just to mix it up a little bit. So one thing we like to do at home is we'll take one cookbook for the week and we will make our entire meals or our week's worth of dinners out of that one cookbook. Then the next week I'll grab a different cookbook and meal plan that way. It keeps it interesting for us, and each night then we're not doing the what are you in the mood for? What do you think you want? It's fast, or it's faster. I always know we have the ingredients that we need too. That was always a killer when you finally decided everybody was in the mood for tacos and you realized that you didn't have black beans or salsa or tortillas. So this way we have a plan, everybody's on board. We actually, you can't see, but we have a menu board up there. It has the days of the week and what page even the recipes are from. So that way, let's say Brandon gets home early, gets home like we're going anywhere. Now we're all on lockdown too, but before that, I would have the page number open. Usually I've got the cookbook sitting in there so somebody, if they wanted to, could get started on dinner for me. Doesn't always happen, but sometimes it did. All right, so the onions have about 2 more minutes to cook. So what I've done is I have pre-measured all of the spices. So once we add the potatoes in, we're going to cook those down for another 10 minutes. And then we're going to add the cumin, coriander, and turmeric separately. Once that cooks for a while and we add, after the kale is in there and the kale wilts, then we'll add the chili powder. And so you just kind of work your way through the spices on this recipe. It looks like the salt is what will end up going in last. So once you're cooking, I mean the cooking time is maybe only, what, 5 minutes for the onions, 10 minutes for the potatoes, enough time for the rest of this to wilt. Or maybe only look at about 25 minutes cook time. So if you've got everything chopped up, everything in your fridge, this is a really quick dinner. Nice thing too, it is summer here, so it's produce season. You can get a nice head of fresh cabbage, you know, the zucchinis from our garden. I bought the kale at the grocery store though. I've never grown it. I don't know if I'd like to. I feel like it would grow easy, but maybe take up a lot of room. I don't really know. So if you look back here though, actually you'll see some really cool squash that a friend just grew and gave to us. This is an orbital squash. I know, it's fun. She said you just cut it up and pan fry it, so we'll be trying that later this week. Our garden was beautiful this year. Beautiful. Okay, so the onions are done. I'm gonna add in the potatoes now. I don't know if my little pan's gonna be big enough for all of this. So we're gonna pan fry these. Let's see, what did I say, 10 minutes? I think I did. All right, so stir in the potatoes, fry, stirring occasionally for 10 minutes. So then we're going to sprinkle in a tablespoon of water with our spices of the cumin, coriander, and turmeric. We're going to cover the pan and cook it for another 5 minutes. So what you're trying to get to is so the potatoes are fork tender. So you know that they're cooked and they're almost ready to go before you dump in all of the leafy parts. So I think in about 5 minutes I'll end up throwing in the zucchini, except it won't take as long as the potatoes to cook, but it'll take longer than the cabbage. So let's get the little zucchini pieces. Alright, pretty sure I got them all. If I didn't, we'll survive. Alright. We'll just let that cook. We'll let that stir. I'll actually get out the lid for the pan. So in the pan I find myself cooking with all of the time is just this, what is it, a 10 or 12 inch skillet. Comes with a lid. I got it for my birthday last year, I think, Christmas. Either way, it's one of the Tasty brand ones and works really good. It literally cooks evenly. It's solid. I may or may not have burnt the bottom of it, but that was really my fault. It wasn't the pan's. It must have been 2 months ago now, maybe a month. Either way, we were browning butter for some mushrooms or something, and I had the butter browning, and we had just gotten a new bed delivered that day, so we were all excited and we were changing the linens and redecorating our bedroom and, you know, getting 1,000 pillows on the bed, you know, the kind that are ridiculous and you can't even sleep with. And then our oldest came and said, Mama, I think you're trying to burn down the kitchen. We came in and all of the butter was just gone. And we had completely torched it. The house stunk. We had to open all the windows. Not really sure the smoke alarm didn't go off, but we changed all the batteries after that. But, so other than that, where I was going with this is the pan works really well. Even after that, there's maybe the littlest burn in the bottom of the inside. It didn't scorch the sides, it didn't scorch the bottom, and the pan didn't warp, even after pretty much just being over an open flame with nothing in it. So, I'm really pleased with it. I would definitely get these again. So, but I'm trying to not buy more things. You know, I have the one pan. The one pan works well for this, and we do have stock pots and other things, but just no need. All right, so we're at about 6 minutes more for the potatoes. I'm not sure if you can hear, but they're really starting to crackle and get cooking, which is great. I need a tablespoon for the water. This guy. All right, so we've got the potatoes cooking, we've got the onion cooking. I threw the zucchini in. That was just an add-in of convenience. So if you're cleaning out your fridge and you found out that you had mushrooms would be great in here. I mentioned before Brussels sprouts. Those would go well in this. So once the timer goes off, I'm going to put in 1 tablespoon of water, our mixed spices, and then we're actually going to cover it for about 5 minutes until the potatoes are fork tender. That's then when we're going to add in the cabbages and the kale, and we're going to cook that for probably about another 5 minutes. Might be a little bit longer. This pan's getting kind of full, so it depends how far that cabbage and kale cook down, if we'll be able to fit it all in there. And if it doesn't fit in well, we might just have to add in a few extra minutes of cook time, since it's not all of the ingredients aren't getting to the heat source at once. And I think I'm going to add the garlic in towards the end, just so it stays a little bit more of a distinct flavor. I cheat. I buy jars and jars of the minced garlic. We have a garlic press. We've had fresh garlic. It tastes phenomenal and I love it, but this just makes my life a little bit easier, and sometimes you just need that. So that's what we do. All right. So we're going to add in a tablespoon of water. That tablespoon is going to do, but all right, tablespoon of water, and now we're going to put in the cabbage and the kale. I think I'm going to put in the cabbage first because it's thicker, it won't wilt as fast. Get that a little bit closer to the flame to start with. Okay, stir that in. You know, maybe they put the water in probably just as a catalyst to get the maybe the spices spread out better. You know, like, think about it, when you do taco seasoning, I realize I've already put in 1 tablespoon, and I might have put in another one just because, well, because I think it needs it. All right, I'm just gonna leave this off just so I can stir it a little bit easier for myself right now. This looks really good, it's so pretty. I'm really glad that I used the red cabbage. It also said that you could use red kale. I just didn't get the red kale. All right. That off a little bit. So now let's take a look at these tofurkeys. We have a really good experience with the Tofurkey brand. When we have used it, we've done the what is it? The deli slices. Where they actually, I think 2 is going to be enough. I'm just going to put 2 sausages. Where they actually have like fake deli meat, where you can put it on sandwiches. Like I said, for me, I don't miss meat. I don't feel the need to substitute it really with anything. A lot of times when I do cook and we make our meals, we just don't put any in. It's not even if a recipe calls for, you know, ground beef, we put nothing in its place, or we'll put in sometimes black beans, pinto beans. We use a lot of chickpeas too. Those really work well for us. All right, now I'm going to add in the kale. All right, so once we get the kale in, we'll let that cook down for another minute before we put on the chili powder and the lid. Now we're going to add the chili powder, and then we're going to reduce the heat down to low. Alright, so the chili powder is in there now. It says at this time too you can add another tablespoon of water, which I'm definitely going to do. We're going to put the lid on and let that cook down. So turn down the heat, we're at medium-low. Let that go for, let it go for 3 minutes. And then I'm going to add in, sorry. All right, so when this timer goes off, I'll stir these in, and then dinner is just about done. We'll just need to wait for these to heat back up. This is looking really good. All right, so timer went off, so we've got about 2 minutes left. So what we're going to do now is add in half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to put in the little sausages. to get those heated up. And I'm going to put in this garlic. I'd say it's, I don't know, maybe 2 teaspoons of garlic in total. So I'm trying to get the little tofurkeys down to the bottom so they can get onto the pan. I really should have cleared a spot in the corner for them next time. Let's see. I'm going to get one of the forks and see if how these potatoes are doing, if they're almost cooked. So forks off literally means can you poke a fork into it easily. We are almost there. So put the lid back on and we'll let that cook for, let's see, 3 more minutes. All right, this is just about ready. It smells really good. Testing another potato. Get a ladle out so you can just scoop it into the bowls. So, according to the timer, it should all be done. That last potato I checked was just a little too hard still for me, so I'm going to cook them, say, another 3 minutes. That way any that I missed will be taken care of. This looks great. It smells so good. And the kale really, and cabbage both really cooked down, so. Alright, so sounds like dinner's ready. Just leave it on the stove until Brandon gets back up here, and then we'll plate it out. So here you have it. It's the pan-fried baby potatoes, kale, cabbage with the added tofurkey sausages. And we're gonna go sit down to dinner. Have a good night.